Hello, it's Paul again with Paul's Thoughts. I was at a prayer meeting a while ago, and I was reminded of an amazing story about something that happened at a place where John Wesley lived. Now, for those who do not know who John Wesley was, he lived during the 1700s. He was a theologian and an evangelist. He founded the Methodist movement. He began open air preaching, and the first person to do evangelism as such, and such big scale as what he did. It was amazing. Through him, the churches were established eventually. It's known and documented that he traveled over 250,000 miles on horseback. Preached over 40,000 sermons, sparking a revival across England and American colonies during the 1700s. Must have been phenomenal, the work that he did for God and for people. If you think back at the work that is done by this man, it is amazing. And to think at the time that it was done as well. Over the years, if you look at now, the Methodist Church, reaches millions of people worldwide. And it just reminds me that we can all do our part and play a part in broadcasting and spreading God's word and to all people. There's still room for it. And like I've said before, that's my whole reason for starting this platform and this channel. And please subscribe at the bottom and share your thoughts with me. Leave a comment. I think we can all do our part still. And like I said, if I just reach one person, then I'm happy. If I think back with regards to John Wesley, years later, if you fast forward from his life in the early 1900s, I think it was in 1930s, a group of theology students was visiting England, and I think at the place where he lived, what's called the Epworth Rectory, I think, it was his childhood home, and theology students was visiting. A professor took a bunch of students, and they visited a whole lot of famous religious places, and one of the places was John Wesley's home. And as the guide was walking through and showed the people the ins and outs of the house, they moved upstairs and made their way to John Wesley's room. And it is believed in his room there's two patches next to his bed from his knees, where he knelt down and prayed for hours on end, and it's apparently visible. They spoke about this in depth, and everyone was amazed about being in his room. And when this group of students later moved down back to their bus, I suppose, the tour guide signaled to the professor that one of the students was missing, and he wasn't with them. And they did a head count, and they realized, there's one of the students aren't there. They went back into the house. The professor walked throughout the kitchen, lounge, and dining room area and couldn't find the student. Walked back up the steps, and when he entered the room, he heard the prayer, and one of the students was kneeling down in the same place where John Wesley knelt, and he was praying, "Lord, do it again, and let it begin with me." And the professor walked over, put his hands on the student's shoulders, and said, "Let's go, it's time to go." And this student was Billy Graham. So, go Google these names and go and just see, there's so much information on them. Billy Graham, for those that don't know, he ended up being one of the most influential Christian evangelists in the 1900s. He passed away in I think in 2018. Through his preachers and his global reach, He reached, it must have been over 200 million people. This man traveled 185 countries. He, it was phenomenal, the reach that he had. And that prayer was definitely answered by God when he knelt in the same place where John Wesley used to pray daily and for hours, 200 years before. And he said, God, do it with me. Let me have the same impact. And just these two people reached millions of people and possibly changed millions of lives. And it's amazing testimony of God, the answering of prayers, and him taking ordinary people and making these people do his work in extraordinary ways. We can all play our part. Like I said before in the beginning of this video, I'll be happy if I can just help a couple of people and encourage them and just share my thoughts. I'm a nobody, and there's so many of us out there that can reach people in our everyday lives. At work, I'm on my way to work now, and be kind, be good to those around you. Spark revivals, even if it's little ones. I don't think sometimes in life we don't realize the impact that we have on others and the knock-on effect it has going forward. Your kindness to people can definitely spark something in them to be kind to others. It has a knock-on effect. God works through us. The year that's saying, God works in mysterious ways. He does, and sometimes he works in plain and simple ways too. People often say, but miracles don't happen the way they used to, and we don't see proof of miracles. And I think we must just have our eyes open. I think they happen more often than not. This story of John Wesley and Billy Graham just proves how God answers prayers and how he uses people to spread his word and to do his work. We have to have the heart of Jesus, and that's a serving heart. We need to be there for others. We need to, they call Jesus the friend of the sinners and the tax collectors, and we need to be the same. Be amongst people. We must break those chains and that thought pattern where they said don't mix with people and don't do this and don't do that. And you know what? I think we should not be afraid to be with people who others say we shouldn't be with. Because it's in those instances that we can touch them and we can touch their hearts and make them realize that being a believer, being a Christian is not what they think it is. There's much more to it. And it's not set in stone the way we are supposed to do things. We are there to serve and have the hearts of Jesus and serve in the way Jesus did. And that is to love one another and be kind to others. So yeah, that's Paul's thoughts for now. We chat again soon. Take care.